Hey, RetconRaider here, with special thanks to the Raiders, the fine folks who help make these videos possible, including but not limited to Dragon Matrix 7, Mathew Smith, Revenant, Alois, Drakiith, Eerie V23, EgonAlter, Emile, Exsellsior, Gottlieb, James Trimmier, Kazorm, Nathan Welch Jr., RandomPassrby, RobbyB, Tomasz Piątkowski, Triphoppenskip, and Valinrook. Thanks for your support, guys. That said, let's get started. And welcome to Pathfinder, Wrath of the Righteous, Through the Ashes. One of the 3 DLC that made up the first batch of DLC for Pathfinder Wrath. I have been meaning to get to this one for a while now, and I've deliberately held off on playing it, just so we could go in blind for this mini-series. I mean, I do know some minor spoilers. For example, I know that our 2 main companions are a rogue and a sorcerer. They're right there on the key art. But otherwise, I've got no real idea what we're in for here, so that should be fun. That said, given that we've been playing some version of Pathfinder off and on for the past 4 years, I feel like we can just jump right into this thing. Starting, I guess, with game difficulty. And this one's easy. We're using the same settings that we're using in the current main campaign. That is, modified core difficulty. Basically all of the core difficulty settings, but with additional enemy behaviors enabled, and then weight-based party speed disabled, for the sake of my sanity. Because really, we don't benefit from watching our characters crawl around the map, just because I'm a hoarder. Also, I did enable character retraining, but I don't know if you actually can retrain in the DLC. Like I said, I've never played it, so that's really just a just-in-case, I suppose. And speaking of training a character, let's go ahead and get ours put together. We're obviously going with a custom character, and as is often the case, I actually had the Raiders guide my hand on this. I did a quick series of exclusive polls for the Raiders to decide the broad strokes of the character, and then I just filled in the gaps. But the general gist here is that we are looking to build an Oread monk, using this lovely custom character portrait, part of the Frost portrait pack, which you can find over on Nexus Mods, and which the artist was kind enough to give me permission to use for this series. So thanks again, Frost. You can find links to more of their work in the description down below. Now, as aforementioned, we are going with a monk, which, perhaps rather tellingly, ended up completely dominating both of the polls I ran to determine what class we'd be playing. Like, by a margin of over 60% of the votes. I feel like that tells us this DLC is going to be pretty frugal on the equipment side of things. So I tried to keep that in mind while I was putting this guy together. As for archetype, that one was actually much more closely contested. There were a lot of fans for a number of the options here, but it ultimately came down to a toss-up between Scaled Fist and Student of Stone. But right at the last minute, a small contingent of raiders who were apparently concerned that Scaled Fist is too overdone ended up tipping the scales towards Student of Stone, so that's what we're going with. That said, let's run through what we've got here real quick. We've got most of the standard monk abilities, improved unarmed strike, monk AC bonus, enhanced unarmed strike damage. We have access to the various exotic monk proficiencies, no big deal since we're primarily just going to be using our mitts. Flurry of Blows, that's an extra attack at full base attack bonus. That's a pretty huge get for a first level character. We've got Stunning Fist, which once per day will grant us a chance to stun an opponent. Not a huge deal, but a nice ace to have up our sleeve for those tougher fights. Then at level 3 we gain access to key powers, and ours is going to of course be Sudden Speed. That'll help us offset our naturally lower speed as an Oread. At level 4 we'll get a bit bolder with Still Mind. That's +2 on all of our saves versus enchantment. And then at level 5, we'll gain Purity of Body, which grants immunity to all diseases, as well as our Style Strike, And I'll admit, I'm not sure which one to go with here yet. I'm kind of leaning leg sweep, but all of them are pretty good. That should be towards the end of the DLC, though, so we'll have plenty of time to think about it. And as a student of stone, we lose our normal monk enhanced speed as well as evasion, but instead pick up hard as stone, inappropriate, which makes us more resistant to enemy critical attacks, and strength of stone at 3, which essentially grants us a +1 across the board on 2 hits, damage rolls, certain combat maneuvers, and combat defense. Hard to say if that's really worth the trade-off, but I can live with it. Especially since we know we'll be picking up sudden speed at some point. Now, moving beyond the basics, we are, of course, an Oread, which means slow movement, base speed 20, which, again, will be offset by sudden speed. We get Keen Senses, +2 to Perception, which we will be leaning into. We get Acid Resistance 5, not bad, depending on what type of enemies we run into. We gain Acid Affinity, which is completely useless to us. And then we select our Heritage, which in our case is just going to be a plain old ordinary Oread. Since, of course, of the attributes, Charisma is about the only one that's more or less useless for monks. Except for Scaled Fists. But given that we are in fact a student of stone, +2 on Strength and Wisdom is fantastic, and offset by a relatively meaningless -2 Charisma. Stone Fist is completely redundant, so we'll just ignore that. For background, we're going for Acolyte. That will key our Persuasion skill off of our Wisdom instead of our Charisma. We'll just manipulate people through sheer force of will. And then we've got the big one, Ability Point Allocation. And much like with Creed, I'm going to be kind of frugal here. We will completely tank Charisma, of course. We have literally no use for that at this point. But then, as a monk, we have 3 or 4 other attributes, which are all fairly important. So we're just going to kind of evenly spread our points out there. Assuming Through the Ashes will cap at level 5, that means we'll be getting 1 extra attribute point. So we'll set our dex at 15. That way we can round it out to 16 before we hit the end of the DLC. For skills, we get a paltry 3 points, which I will be sinking into Athletics, a skill which I am fairly certain that neither a rogue nor a sorcerer will have. Perception, which they probably will have, but which it's always good to have redundant checks on. And Persuasion. I imagine that at least one of the companions will be trained in that, but there may be cases where our character will have to take point on Persuasion checks, so I'd like to be prepared for that just in case. That aside, it also keeps our options open for stuff like Dazzling Display, Cornigan Smash, Dread Carnage, just in case we decide to go that route. That is a possibility if and when we play the Through the Ashes sequel. And I'd actually really like to invest in the pummeling style track, because I've always found that one interesting, but I've never had an excuse to really use it on any of the characters I've built. Mainly because if we can get up to Pummeling Charge at level 8, that will allow us to charge and do a full flurry attack in a single action. That said, we can't actually get that one until level 8 at the earliest, so for now we will just focus on basics, and pick up Weapon Focus Unarmed Combat. That's a flat +1 to hit, and net +1 on combat maneuvers. That'll be relevant a bit later down the line. And then we have our Monk bonus feat, a list which sadly does not include any of the styles except for Crane style. Really feels like they're trying to pigeonhole you in a very specific type of build, but I will not be swayed. I'll pick up Dodge instead. Which, granted, isn't the most exciting feat, but an extra point of AC is always welcome. Next we've got Deity. Not something I'm super concerned about, considering I didn't invest in religion, but we'll go with Aurori. That's the one that makes the most sense. Especially since one of Aurori's favored servants is a Kung Fu Stone Giant. Then we have Alignment, which I allowed the Raiders to choose for me, and that will be Lawful Neutral, which again makes sense for a stone. And then we've got Name. And in keeping with my love of the fantasy standard of word plus slightly longer word, I've gone with Grim Caldera. Which, not the most clever of names, but I like the way it flows. The one thing I knew for certain was that this guy's first name was either going to be Grim or Dower, and Grim just happened to flow slightly better with Caldera, so here we are. And hey, with that, we are done. Let's rock and roll. Through the Ashes. When many years had passed, chroniclers would speak of the attack on Kenabras as a turning point that marked the start of the Fifth Crusade. But in those days of fire, most people had no time to think of history. They were concerned with more pressing matters. Where can we find shelter? How do we bandage these wounds? How do we survive one more day? Those are all excellent questions. I guess we'll find out. Rude. Oh, that is unfortunate. Hey, it's me. I feel like I could have hit him a little harder than that. Well, that was a short adventure. Oh, wait, scratch that. Turns out we're not dead. Thank goodness. Being dead would have made it very difficult to get things done. Though to be fair, it would not be the first adventure I've seen where you start off dead. There are at least a few obscure third-party publishers back in the old OGL days who explored those sorts of themes. Undead or afterlife adventuring. Not really my thing, but I can see how it might be somewhat intriguing. Why are we moving? Are we limping? Sprained ankle. Well, that's lame. It's only a 90-second duration, but... Oh, but we're also down almost half our health. So yeah, we could use a cure item or two. Wow. That's probably fine. You notice stage scenery and props amidst the mounds of rubbish. Pieces of walls of Nerosian here, a fragment of an angel's helmet there, and a broken staff that very recently played the part of Radiance, the legendary sword. Well, that's ridiculous. Radiance is long gone. There's no way it would still be in Kenabras somewhere. Honestly, I can only suspend my disbelief so far. The corpse reeks of carrion and cheap booze. It looks like the cultist tripped and broke his neck. That is very sad. No, I don't get XP. But I do get a conveniently placed potion of Cure Light Wounds. Which I guess we'll drink immediately. Oh, good. 2 whole hit points. I'll try not to spend them all in one place. Sham Shortsword. 1d4 damage, -2 to hit. Interesting. So yeah, I'd say that's a pretty good sign that they're going to be a bit on the stingy side here. Thankfully, we are a certified lethal weapon, so I'm not too fussed about that. But that is going to be an issue when we run into our new companions. I like the scenery here. A sham short spear. Langrat Messini and a rabid dog. Man, are they really going to make us start things off by killing a dog? Nothing else is highlighting. Let's try talking to this guy. Or we'll immediately get into combat. I guess that's that then. This is a bummer. Yeah, sorry.
What have you done? Why did you kill him? Our poor Leafy, how could you?
The half-elf dressed in tattered, flashy clothes, his face smeared with what remains of his stage makeup, brings his hands to his mouth in horror, revealing his long, delicate fingers and manicured nails. Sorry. People are usually grateful when I save their lives.
Look, thank you for helping me out, but surely you could have found a non-violent solution.
He glances at the bloody corpse of the dog and immediately turns away, fighting the urge to vomit. Perhaps. And perhaps you would have died in the time it took me to do that.
What? No, not at all. Leafy and I are friends. He got scared, that's all. Scared and hungry after... Oh, Shellen, this is a nightmare. What did I do to deserve this? What sin did I commit? It's all the demons. I've never seen dogs behave like this. It's worse than rabies. Worse than plague. Those monsters have brought madness to our city. People have lost their minds and have started killing each other. And now the dogs have gone berserk.
He shakes his head forlornly. Why are they here in the first place? This is a theater, right?
They're strays, the poor things. We feed them every once in a while. They look so miserable. I guess they were quick to forget about our friendship. Or maybe it was the insidious Baphomet who made them attack their patrons.
It's a doggone shame. But you yet still live. Tell me, friend, who are you?
Langrat Messini, at your service.
He tries to sweep into a courtly bow, but he teeters and almost falls to the floor.
Oh? I am the first violin in this very theater. Or at least, that's who I was before disaster struck. Now I'm just like you. Just another victim, hiding from savage monsters among the ruins, hoping to see the sunrise just one more time.
Well, if you work here, then you should be familiar with the ins and outs. Perhaps you could point us to one of the outs.
Out of where? The orchestra pit or the theater?
Yes.
The only way out of the theater's through the seats, and that's where those killers are. And the orchestra pit... There was a door over there, but it was blocked by some rubble. Long ago, way before the attack. Another option is the stage, but we'd be out in the open, and that's just what they want. So, there you have it. No way out. All we can do is pray.
He looks around like a cornered animal. Very well then, I'll leave you to your prayer, while I find a way out. Nicely done. That sigh did indeed sound forlorn. Interesting that they led with that guy being fully voice acted. I wonder if everyone's voice acted. That would be fairly welcome. Sorry, doggo. Sham crossbow. Well, that is actually potentially useful to us. So, you coming, or It's so awful. How could the gods have allowed this to happen? I'll take that as a no. Who's that sneaking around? The cultist pulls out a knife and looks around suspiciously. Once she's got a good look at you, she grins, showing her rotten teeth. Oh, our fresh meat is out for a walk, is it? Come over here. I'll get you good, in the name of Baphomet. You sure? I'm a half-ton rock man. Come at me if you will, but be forewarned, I will defend myself. Oh, scary. I'd love to see you try. I guess we're doing this. Or not. The cultist walks towards you, raising her dagger, but then, out of nowhere, a silhouette appears behind her. The next moment, she lets out a gurgling wheeze as the man pulls a string around her neck and starts strangling her. The cultist whips around and pushes her attacker away, but he still manages to take her dagger. Don't just stand there. Kill her. Where'd you come from? All right, I'll sacrifice you both to Baphomet. I admire your confidence. As misplaced as it may have been. Let's go up. We need to talk. I'll take that. And right, I guess he grabbed her dagger.
Good work. One less goon for them, one more knife for us.
This middle-aged tiefling has clearly seen some hardship in his life. In a subtle movement of his nimble fingers, he hides the string he used to strangle the cultist up his sleeve. Then sizes you up, his eyes narrowed.
You're not half bad yourself. The name's Rekarth. We should stick together, and maybe we'll make it out of this slaughterhouse.
He offers you his hand. Okay, so this is obviously our party rogue. He matches the key art. And based on our conversations with Erebeth in the main campaign, we also know this guy's a member of the Eagle Watch. He's the one who took over for Erebeth when she left Kenabras. Though, of course, that hasn't actually happened yet. Grim Caldera. Pleasure to meet a fellow survivor.
It's a deal, then.
His grip is firm as he shakes your hand.
All right, that's enough small talk. We better figure out how we're getting out of here. I have to make it to the Defender's Heart, no matter what it... Wait!
Rekarth freezes, listening. The string, already taut, reappears instantly in his hand. Yeah, maybe don't kill that guy.
Wait! Don't! I'm a friend, not a cultist! See?
Pale with fear, Langrat the musician holds his hands up.
I saw you. Do what you did. It was horrible. So much blood. But I guess you had no other choice, right? Those cultists are animals. How are there so many of them all of a sudden? Where did they come from?
What do you think?
Rekarth hides the string again.
They've been living here this whole time, walking the same streets as us, breaking bread with us. Maybe they've even dropped by this theater of yours a time or two, to listen to some music and dream about what they were going to do once they seized power. Anyway, what do you want from us?
You two want to get out of here? I have an idea of how you could pull it off. I've worked in this theater for a long time, so I know every nook and cranny in the place. I could point you toward a way out, but you have to promise me that you'll take me with you. No, you'll have to swear it. I don't want to die in here.
He turns even paler, shuts his eyes tight, as if expecting to be struck for his words. Go on.
Basically, there's a... Hold on a minute. First, give me your word that you won't leave me here to die. I'm not telling you anything until you promise me.
Yeah, that's fair. I promise I'll get you out, but I can't guarantee it'll be alive. You have my word.
Then listen. This theater is very old, you know. It was built back in the times of the First Crusade, almost 100 years ago. Its stage has been graced by such legends as...
Get to the point.
Huh? Oh, right. Anyway, it's an old theater, and between you and me, the city doesn't have the coin to maintain it properly. The foundation is sinking deeper and deeper every year. There are caves beneath our feet, you know. This place has cracks running up the walls, and no matter how much we complain, all the city authorities do is,
He catches Rekarth's menacing look.
So at any rate, the floor in the basement collapsed recently. We just covered the hole with planks, more or less. But if you were to remove them, you could get into the catacombs. It's scary down there, all right. But not as scary as what's going on up here. There, I've told you. No tricks, you hear? You promised you wouldn't leave without me.
Well, see, now you're making me not want to take you with me, but... Rekarth, thoughts?
Well, it's not a plan yet. Just a lead that could help us make one. We need to go and take a look at this hole for ourselves. It could work.
Rekarth shrugs. I don't suppose you have anything else that could be at all useful for us?
This theater's got lots of secrets. But as for one that could help us survive right now, give me a moment to think. Maybe something will come to me.
Very well. Let's hope that what you've already told us is enough to get us out of here.
Shelyn, preserve us all.
So listen, here's what I wanted to tell you before this fool crept up on us. No matter what it takes, I have to make it to the Defender's Heart. It's a tavern, you know it?
Rekarth turns away from Langrat and starts talking to you quietly. Right, yeah. Eagle Watch. This is the guy. I feel like we have slightly higher priorities than getting to the nearest tavern.
It's been made into the headquarters for the remnants of the resistance against the demons. You might not think it to look at me, but I work for the Paladins, from the Order of the Eagle Watch. The resistance was put together by their leaders, Anevia and Irabeth Tirabade. And I have information for them. Something big. Something they need to know right now. I'm serious. The lives of everyone in this city depend on me delivering this report.
Other people who are still fighting the demons, you say?
Hard to believe, huh? Well, the city isn't gonna curl up and die just like that. Everyone with the strength to fight is gathering at the Defender's Heart. And everyone without it too, I suppose. Sitting behind Paladin shields is safer, sure enough.
And you're saying that you are a knight?
No. I am definitely not a knight. More like the opposite. But there are times when knights need the help of folks like me. You get the picture? I'm just a scout. And well, sometimes I do other things for them. Off the books.
Rekarth gives you a crooked and bitter smile. Let's say I believe you. What's this report you're supposed to deliver?
The demons are preparing to launch an attack on the tavern. They're hoping to crush what's left of the city's defenders in one fell swoop. I was listening in on their plans when they caught me, tied me up, and threw me in here. I gotta warn the Paladins so that those fiends don't cut them all down. Instead, I'm lounging around at this luxury resort.
And you're suggesting we work together?
I hope I make it to the heart alive. I really hope I make it. But if I do end up kicking the bucket along the way, I want you to deliver my report instead. Find Commander Irabeth Tirabade or her wife Anevia at the tavern. Tell them the demons at the Tower of Eastrad are preparing a large-scale assault. They have to know. They have to be ready. Do you understand?
His hoarse voice is filled with anger and worry, but his eyes are steely with resolve. I've got a feeling they'll be okay, but sure.
Then let's find a way out of this dump for starters. It might be worth talking to some of the other prisoners. They look like a bunch of half-dead wimps, but who knows? They could be of some use.
All right, let's have a look at this guy. Crusader in Shadow. The tiefling with the nimble fingers of a thief and the weary gaze of a knight has always been an outsider wherever he goes. The people of Kenabras openly despised his kind as spawn of the Abyss, while the city's cultists were only too happy to accept him into their ranks. Not knowing how much Rekarth hated them, he waged his war in the shadows, in the city's underbelly, away from the eyes of law-abiding citizens. But when the demon attack turned this world upside down, Rekarth and other outlaws like him became the burning city's last line of defense. Oh right, and let's actually look at his stats and stuff. Okay, so he's definitely not a persuasion-based rogue. Standard rogue, huh? With precise shot. So he's more of a ranged rogue. Chaotic neutral, pretty much the polar opposite of Grim. Okay, I can work with this. Aside from perception, he doesn't really overlap with us in any areas. He's a pretty standard range-based rogue. Would have been nice if he was maybe into religion or UMD. But I think he complements us nicely. Now let's have a chat with these half-dead wimps. Oh, actually, let's give him that toy crossbow. The Great Deeds of Prelate Halrun. Sure, why not? Scene 1. Enter Chorus. That is the worst song I have ever seen. I'm going to assume they're chanting. A century of grief struck Avestan. Sarkarus fell, and the vast world wound opened, thus giving birth to the abyssal spawn. But then Queen Galfrey, may her life be blessed, drank the vial, and as Mendev's shield led forth the great crusaders. And so 100 years have passed. Iomedae still guides us, as we hold the line. And in Kenabras, Prelate Halrun wages his war on enemies of state. As long as he remains the law's unyielding keeper, the border city is safe from the demon's claws. Scene 2. A square in Kenabras. Prelate Halrun stands proud. A guardsman runs over to him. Who goes there? We're doomed, Prelate! Doomed! A demon horde surrounds the city walls. Not another word, you craven! Form a unit. We'll fight the beasts and slay them in the name of good. Go outside the walls? I do not seek my death. You heretic! You would betray Kenabras? Die, then! Halrun slays the guardsman. 'Tis no place for cowards. Iomedae protects us, but fear is fertile soil for cultist filth. Halrun exits. Yeah, that sounds about right. Wonder whatever happened to that Halrun guy. He's probably around here somewhere. Scene 3. Prelate Halrun with his unit marches beyond the gates to face the demon horde. Abyssal wretches stand before us. Here comes a spear. It barely missed you, Prelate. Why take the risk? For years on end, I've risked my life against our foe. I do not fear to lose it. Draw your blade, and may the goddess bless us. Go, to battle! The Prelate's fire and sword strike true. The endless ranks grow thinner by the minute, as snow in Mendev melts in early spring. The shrieking beasts have scattered for his ire. The prelate lives. Kenabras will not fall. If you say so. I feel like they might have to update that play just a little after all is said and done. Just looks like retreads.
I managed.
Before the World Wound, there was no theater in Kenabras. It was built during the First Crusades to raise the spirits of fighters, going off to fight the demons. It is one thing I'm really looking forward to with this DLC, is just learning more about Kenabras, the setting. Gods, please, gods, save us, please. Oh, good luck with that. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to filling in gaps, just learning more about the setting. Stuff like that. Rekarth, could you maybe walk a little closer? I feel like you're trailing a mile behind me. That's more like it. A burly, ginger-haired fellow is cradling his hand. It's wrapped in a rag that has turned dark from all the dried blood. He raises his eyes to you. His gaze is haunted and seems at odds with his imposing physique. Who are you? What do you want? Grim Caldera. And you? Bamir's my name. I'm a miller around these parts. I brought my flour to the city, and then... He sniffles. I got caught up in this like a mouse between two millstones. That is just terrible imagery. What's wrong with your hand? They bit it off, the brutes, he sobs. Half the palm, gone, just like that. How am I supposed to work now? How am I going to feed my family? Can you still fight? No, I'm not one to pick fights anyway. And now that I've got fingers missing, what am I going to do to those dirtbags? Fight them? He sighs. Now, if you need to move something heavy, or bend something, or break down some door or other, that I can do. Nothing to it. Okay, so you do have a use. Possible fill-in for, like, athletic stuff. We're finding a way out. Are you with us? Escaping? There's a thought. You lot got a plan? I can't say I see a way out of this place, but if you find something, I'm going with you. Very well. Glory be. So how do we pull it off? I'll, get back to you on that part. You do that. Search the place through and through. There has to be some kind of way out. Yeah, that is the hope. Otherwise, this will make for a very, very short adventure. Oof, religion. Hey. Baphomet's unholy sigil has been crudely drawn on the wall in blood. Upside down. It seems these cultists aren't very proficient in demonology. Are you sure? The guy who tripped and broke his own neck? The gal who tried to charge a half-ton rockman with a dagger? You're saying they weren't professionals? They'll let us go. This is some kind of misunderstanding. I'm sure they'll let us go. Water. The Queen is already on her way here. She'll make them pay. And more praying. Hey, Langrat. Wow, so who would have thought that Langrat would be the third most useful person here?
Using clever tactics now.
Onward, Rekarth. Let's see what awaits us backstage. Ooh, free torch. I'll take that. That would be very useful if I actually used weapons. Though I am missing a light source about now. Hello there. More doggos. No. Oh, 2 doggos. That's a problem. Ooh, let's, I don't think we're gonna get a charge path there. Let's just open fire.
I'll gut you!
Whoa! That's a theater prop, right? See, that is why I never got into LARPing. Too lethal. You know what? We'll hang back, go on defense. Run interference for Rekarth. I have severely underestimated the power of nerf. Also, we are not gaining experience points from these fights. That's interesting. But we are gaining experience points from skill checks and objectives. I kind of like that, actually. It takes the focus off of just mindlessly fighting everything we run into, and encourages us to evade them or to look for alternate solutions. Sorry, doggo. Ooh, that was shellfish of me.
This fight won't be my last.
Oh. A swarm? Are you kidding me? At level 1? Actually, that's not that bad. It's the insect swarms you have to worry about. I just still have flashbacks to those spider swarms from early Kingmaker. More rats off to the right. Floor crack. Wait, are we done? The theater is long overdue for some maintenance. The floor is sagging and cracks have formed between the stone slabs. Someone did a sloppy job of patching up a particularly large hole with uneven boards. The uneven boards were haphazardly fastened together with rusted nails, but they're still holding tight. You can't rip them off with your bare hands. We can't open up this hole without some tools. We better have a look around. There's gotta be one lousy crowbar somewhere in this theater, right? Rekarth knocks on the planks. Yep, this isn't looking good. We'll have to work quickly or else they'll hear the creaking at the other end of the city. Maybe one of the no-hopers on stage can help us out? I could really use an extra pair of hands here. I guess that would be Emile? You can see stone walls through the cracks. The air coming from under the floor is damp. It's hard to say for sure what awaits you down there, but it doesn't seem like a dead end. The boards don't budge, but they do creak like crazy. Hey, cut it out. If we're gonna clear this hole, someone will have to distract the cultists, or else they'll be on us before you know it. I don't think I like the idea of leaving someone behind to, quote-unquote, distract the cultists. You know what? Let's maybe not attack the second rat pile. Odds are in our favor, but I'd feel slightly better if we could get our health back up above, say, 75%. There's got to be more potions around here somewhere. Now see, that is like the opposite of a potion. That is not at all what we're looking for. And yet I am glad we spotted it. Thank you, Rekarth. Big open room. Let's avoid that. Oh, and that's the other half of the room with the rats. Okay. And yet another trap. This is a very dangerous theater. What is going on here? Oh, I see, I see. Okay. I bet we have to somehow get those boards to bridge the gap. And also find a way to get up there so we can actually cross it. Interesting. This room was once the epitome of luxury. It seems this was the prima donna's dressing room. Neat. Anything here we can actually use? That's not locked in a chest. We have a 1 in 5 chance of jamming. Well, this is either a super secret rehearsal room, or our prima donna was some sort of cultist? Or spy, perhaps? I mean, I guess there's no guarantee she was a cultist. We're not seeing any blatant signs of Baphomet worship. Man, they keep giving us scrolls, but we just cannot do anything with these. I'd love to shore up her health, but they are just not giving us much in the way of options here.
Using clever tactics now.
Maybe in that chest, but I really don't want to risk jamming it. So 4 switches, 4 platforms held aloft by ropes. Seems pretty basic. We either have to arrange those to bridge the gaps between the remaining segments of floor, or we have to create a bridge up top so we can cross once we get up to that elevation level. I'll tell you what, we're past time anyway, and I feel like we've gotten off to a pretty good start here. Let's hit the pause button for now. I'll fuss with these switches a little off-screen just to get the gist of how this thing works. And we will pick up here next time as we punch through this thing and continue our search for a single measly curing potion. See you then. Oh, and remember, although I do love playing Pathfinder, Wrath of the Righteous, you can find out more about the game and the DLC by visiting the official websites. And if you'd like to help support the channel, maybe see more videos like this one, feel free to push the buttons that do the things, or maybe even check out the Patreon, the YouTube memberships, or the Nexus GG page. Links are in the description.
They have to know. They have to be ready. Do you understand?